Welcome into the Boys Collective episode number 14 here on 105 through the Fan here on YouTube. My name is Kevin Gray alongside Super Bowl winning scout and 1/4 of the G-Bag Nation, Bryan Broaddus. It is our Wednesday show as the Cowboys continue their preparations for the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday afternoon, which you can hear right here on your home of the Cowboys. 105.3 The Fan. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. You can find Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Broaddus. Bryan, good Wednesday to you as the Cowboys get ready to take on the Atlanta Falcons. Some things we got to jump into, none of which is least the kicking situation for the Dallas Cowboys. I didn't think I would be talking about Greg Zuerlein and the kicking situation, but here we are, Greg Zuerlein, as we jump into the Broaddus files here on the Boys Collective. Greg Zuerlein going to be out with COVID. The Cowboys are going to be working out Liram Hiralahu, I know your favorite name to pronounce. And
Liram is a good name. Yeah, just go with Liram. Yeah.
And former Dallas Cowboy kicker Brett Maher. Brett Maher, if folks don't remember, has the longest field goal made in Dallas Cowboys history at 63 yards back in 2019 against the Eagles. How concerned are you about the kicking situation coming up on Sunday now that we know Greg Zuerlein will most likely be missing due to COVID-19, unfortunately?
No, I think you always have to be concerned about the kicking situation, KG, because these games are generally tight and tough. I mean, you won a game against the Los Angeles Chargers on a 56-yard field goal. You probably lost a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a missed extra point and a missed field goal from 30-some-odd yards or 40-some-odd yards. So, these are the types of things you do not want to go into these football games with a shaky kicking situation. And yeah, the Cowboys can, they've ridden with Greg Zuerlein, even though he's missed field goals. He's missed close field goals. He's missed extra points. He's also, like I mentioned, made some big kicks. So yeah, the fact that, Atlanta, in watching Atlanta play, and I know we'll get in on Friday, this might come down to a game where you're going to need points, and you're going to need points, playing against Matt Ryan. I just kind of feel like, though, if you're missing field goals out there, those are opportunities that are wasted for you.
So the Cowboys are going to be looking for a new field goal kicker come Sunday. Also, Tyron Smith, it appears as the week continues to go on, it doesn't appear that he will be available again for the second consecutive week as they take on the Atlanta Falcons. If he cannot go, Jerry Jones has already said on 105 through the Fan and Mike McCarthy, without saying it, has kind of said it, Terrence Steele would again get the start at left tackle on Sunday. Not a great Sunday for Terrence Steele going up against Jonathan Cooper and the Denver Broncos. Another week, I would hope theoretically would help him get a little bit better on that left side. Where do you stand when it comes to Terrence Steele and his potential improvement at the left tackle position if he does have to, in fact, go on Sunday?
Yeah, KG, I think that's an issue. And I think they have to go into this football game much like they went into the game. After what happened last week, they have to go into this game like what they did against, again, the Los Angeles Chargers when they were playing against Joey Bosa. You have to give Terrence Steele help. You can have confidence that he can win some one-on-one battles and stuff. And he's shown he's capable at right tackle doing that. But the footwork, the punch, all those things that you have to flip over physically and do, it wasn't his best effort there. There were some problems over there. And I'm sure the mental stuff was just fine. The physical stuff wasn't. They're going to have to put people over there with him. They're going to have to give him a little confidence and give him a little help, whether it's tight ends, backs, something is going to have to help him along because the Falcons will clearly attack that area. They will go after. We saw last week in the Saints game that they were able to cause problems with their pass rush, sack fumbles just by their pass rush and what they were able to generate. So I expect him to get that full complement of help, much like he did against the Los Angeles Chargers.
Tyron Smith, quote unquote, making progress, according to Mike McCarthy, with respect to that ankle injury as he tries to work back from that as quickly as possible. How about this Cowboys offensive line? Ezekiel Elliott will have a quote-unquote veteran Wednesday with limited practice reps, Mike McCarthy said. Also, Mari Cooper, Randy Gregory, and Zach Martin are in that category also. So we're getting to that point of the season. We'll get past now the halfway point of this now 17-game season where veterans try to make sure that they're
working their bodies and getting themselves prepared for Sundays as we get deeper and deeper into the season. At this point of the year, how do teams like the Cowboys and others across the NFL try to manage these injuries or manage these veterans in order to have them as fresh as they possibly can be going forward for the second half of this season?
Yeah, KG, one of the positive things that people have talked about when I visited with them about Mike McCarthy is his ability he does understand the health of his team, and he's very much mindful of how banged up his team could be. And so that's something, whether it's the veteran days, an off day, a recovery day, all these things I've been told are very, very positive about Mike McCarthy and what he wants to do going forward. Mike is learning very much like what Jason Garrett always knew this because he was a player for the Cowboys. That Thanksgiving game, that Sunday and then Thursday, it used to be where the Cowboys got back-to-back home games on that Sunday, Thursday. And the league said, not so fast. So then you got a trip to Kansas City and then a home game against the Raiders that following Thursday. Mike is very mindful now of what he's got up ahead. He's got this game this week against Atlanta, and then he's got 3 games and 2 other games that are going to happen really, really quick and fast. So yeah, veteran days right now. He's trying to get his team as healthy as possible for what he has to do in December when the calendar switches again.
The Cowboys are in the middle of a stretch where they play 4 games in 18 days. And the Cowboys are going to have a busy month of November, so trying to get these guys rest as much as they can. One guy who's had plenty of rest and now appears to be ready to go, Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup is ready to return from his calf strain, and he is ready to get back on the field. How important is his return going to be to this Dallas Cowboys offense, given how well this offense has been for the most part this season without him, guys like Cedric Wilson and others stepping up? The return of Michael Gallup and his importance coming back for the Cowboys on Sunday.
Yeah, I think he's going to be really important, and to give Cedric Wilson and then also give Noah Brown a lot of credit for the time that he's missed. The fact that this team has found, the team is basically 6-2. He played the first game, and and now they managed to win games. 6-1 with him being out. But I think that he is really, really important because if you remember, in the game last week, they had some drops. They had some problems, and not that Michael Gallup hasn't had his share of drops over the years, but if you remember the Tampa game, when things weren't going very well at receiver, who was making plays? Michael Gallup was making plays. And then all of a sudden, things kind of started clicking for the other receivers. Maybe they needed Michael Gallup in that game the other night or the other afternoon to make some plays, kind of get everybody going. You could see the Cowboys receivers fighting the ball at the end of that football game. You could literally see them trying to body catch balls along the sideline. CeeDee Lamb, Cedric Wilson. Guys were the lack of confidence was so clear in them going after those footballs against the Broncos. And the Broncos, give them credit. They covered the plays very, very well. Played man coverage, ran all over the place. So you're going to have to be good enough. If you want to stop this Dallas receiving core, Michael Gallup is going to be part of that, though, in his ability. I think having him back in the lineup will be a really good thing for this Cowboys offense.
Michael Gallup looking to make a big impact on his offense as a deep play threat down the field. Dak Prescott will sure be excited to see Michael Gallup back on the field on Sunday when they take on the Atlanta Falcons. Some interesting comments from Jerry Jones on Tuesday on Sean and RJ as he appears every single Tuesday on Sean and RJ here on your home of the Cowboys 105 to the fan. Quote, "That's as flat as any team I've seen as far as his performance of his Cowboys on Sunday. Are losses like this, in your mind, a quote-unquote wake-up call for a team that's been performing as well as they have been, or is it more so a time for them to kind of reset and get refocused on what they have to do based on how they've been performing so far and what their goals appear to be for the season going forward?"
Yeah, I think, KG, nobody wants to lose to gain a lesson. That to me is, and Jerry, and by the way, Jerry Jones, there's been some flat football played here the last couple of years. If you really want to be honest, there's been some games where, they've gone. And I think the thing that's most disappointing to Jerry is that the star players you had didn't show up. Where in Minnesota the previous week, to help Cooper Rush, it took everybody that dressed in that football game. Dak Prescott comes back, and all of a sudden, Dak doesn't play well. The receivers don't play well. They don't block. They don't tackle. They block a punt. It goes forward. They don't play that very well. That was as good as a team win it was against Minnesota. It was as bad a team loss as it was against Denver. And I think that's what was disappointing to Jerry Jones, that throughout this winning streak and throughout this season, he's seen his team play well. But it happens to you. But, man, I hate to say that a loss is a wake-up call or whatever. They physically got beat up, and we kind of thought all along that if the offense doesn't score points and sustain drives, this could very well happen. We talked about it on our Monday show. That was your nightmare. You don't sustain drives. You don't score points. Your offense gets exposed. That wasn't flatness. That was just reality, what Jerry Jones experienced the other day.
He went on, of course, to say, quote, we basically played what seemed to be lackadaisical, end quote. And it's funny you brought up the idea of how this team played relative to the Broncos on Sunday. And a lot of folks using the word exposed or overconfident or whatever the case may be. What we saw in the Denver Bronco game, in my mind, has been a lot of the same things that have been masked by this offense throughout the season. This Cowboys team gives up big plays in the passing game. They did so again on Sunday with the Tim Patrick 44-yard touchdown. This team has been good against the run game, for the most part this year. But if you can physically take this team the way that the Broncos did, you can have them, in the running game. And again, big plays being made, whether it be through the air or on the ground. So maybe it was a continuation of some of the things that we've already seen. But because this offense has been so good, we've been able to kind of gloss over some of it because not only the offense has been good, but the turnovers have also helped out in that category.
Yeah, Dak Prescott's one of the best sticks of deodorant you'll ever have. But they've had guys play well throughout the year. Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, the offensive line, they've had guys play well. That was a game where everything that you could ever imagine going wrong went wrong. And, they just needed to make a play. Somebody needed to make a catch. Somebody needed to make a block on fourth down. Somebody needed to make sure that the ball, when it was blocked, went backwards instead of forwards. A lot of things happened in that game. But, yeah, the offense, when they scored 35 points a game, that takes the opponents. I do believe this, KG. I believe Denver's game plan was they thought they were going to be in a shootout, and they started off with the thought it was going to be a shootout. Then all of a sudden they got two stops, and they're like, whoa, our defense is playing pretty well. This is Pat Shurmur. And then he's like, oh, wow, let's run the ball back-to-back with Williams. They get 31 yards, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, maybe we found something here. Good defense and a running game. And that just completely took the ball out of Teddy Bridgewater's hands to have to make. He made some great throws. But like I said, this is your worst nightmare if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, that somebody else will choke your offense and it'll lead to your defense or your offense exposing their defense.
So now as we start to spin this forward, especially if we look toward our Friday show, the Cowboys still in the middle of preparation with practice on Wednesday as they move forward to get ready to take on the Falcons. When you start looking at this Falcons team, 4-4, third in the NFC South, this is a team that still has a lot to play for itself.
Right.
And when you start looking at the Cowboys, obviously at 6-2 aspirations of potential number one seed in the NFC, all of a sudden, this team feels a lot more important than what it may have felt maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, given how these two teams and the direction that these two teams are going in. For the Cowboys, when they look at the next couple of games, the Falcons, then they play the Chiefs, and then, of course, the Raiders on Thanksgiving Day, can they find themselves potentially looking at this, or in your mind looking at this potentially as a trap game of some sort, or is the importance of the game too important to look past the Atlanta Falcons given not only
yeah. There's no way you can watch the Falcons film and say after what they did to go to New Orleans and get that victory, the Saints scrambled to get back in that game. The Falcons were in control of that football game, and the Saints really scrambled their way back into it. And so, the Falcons make big plays. They might not have, Kyle Pitts is for real. There's a reason why Kyle Pitts was the number one player on a lot of people's draft boards last year. And you're saying, Broaddus, tight end? No, if you followed the draft show and us talking on 105.3, we told you the virtues of Kyle Pitts. We absolutely. Matt Ryan is still a capable quarterback. Watch the Saints game. He moves around in the pocket. He makes throws. They might not have Julio Jones and all the receivers they've had in the past, but they've got good players. They've got good skilled players. So, yeah, I think the fact that they're 4-4, they're the 6th seed right now in the division, in the playoff hunt, that this is a big game. You do not want to lose this game and then have to deal with KC and the Raiders back to back, or you'll find yourself maybe looking at 6-5, and you don't want to do that. I mean, you just don't want to do that. So I have a feeling that Atlanta winning in New Orleans got their attention. The fact that the Cowboys played poorly against the Broncos, you just hope they don't press, but you hope they come out and play better than they do. They need to win this football game. As bad as Atlanta needs to win this game, in my opinion, so do the Dallas Cowboys as we get to the next 2 games.
It should be a fascinating matchup, especially you talk about the quarterback play in this game. Obviously, Matt Ryan, longtime quarterback, former NFL MVP. What they've discovered with Cordell Patterson doing everything, a little bit of everything, for the Falcons. Should be an interesting matchup for them to watch. Before we get out of here, the last thing, Dak Prescott played probably his worst game of the season, maybe the worst game of his career.
He's played against the Broncos badly too. That game that was played a few years ago in Denver, him and Zeke, the whole offense. I mean, that was a disaster. Trevor Siemian for the Broncos won that game. But he's had some disasters. Not a lot of them, but he's had 2 disasters against the Denver Broncos in his career.
How does he bounce back in your mind, given the fact coming off of the calf injury, not playing well? Is this a game for him where you say, look, Dak Prescott will be able to get himself right going up against his Falcons team?
Yeah, I mean, but he's like we talked about with Minnesota, guys are going to have to make plays too. Sure. It's not all on Dak Prescott. Yeah, did he miss some throws? Was he off target? Was he out of rhythm? Yeah, absolutely. But he also threw some good balls that guys dropped on key down and distance situations. I mean, you can't leave Pro Bowl safeties unblocked on a 4th and 1. You just can't. So that's on Kellen Moore, Dak Prescott. It's on this whole entire team, really. I mean, this thing is not going to be about Dak. I think Dak will bounce back. But, Dak can only be as good as the guys around him. The CeeDee Lambs, Amari Cooper, Pollard, Wilson, this offensive line. There's a lot of things he could do by himself, but win football games, he needs everybody around him too to make that work. But I do think he's going to bounce back.
Should be a fascinating matchup, folks. Remember the matchup from last year, the watermelon pick that was Greg Zuerlein, the amazing plays that the Cowboys were able to make to get back into that football game. Dak Prescott was at the center of that. Should be another potential barn burner. The Dan Quinn, Joe Wicks revenge game, Keanu O'Neal, Demonte Casey. Throw all these guys in there too, taking on their former team in the Atlanta Falcons. We will be back on Friday for our Cowboys-Falcons game preview show. We'll get you ready for coverage on all angles as the Dallas Cowboys try and bounce back after their disappointing loss to the Denver Broncos, welcoming in Arthur Smith and this Atlanta Falcons team has got a lot to play for on Sunday. So a lot to get into. Any quick preview that you can give us before we go into our Friday show?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched the Falcons already, and seriously, their tape will get your attention. Don't look at the 1-loss record. They've been in a lot of games. They've lost some games. It's been a little bit of up and down. It's still Matt Ryan. There's still some skill level on this team. And their secondary, the couple of corners like Jenkins and stuff they got some guys that are playing pretty well for them. So I kind of feel like, though, Cowboys' attention will be focused on this football game. This is not one of these games that you look ahead and say, okay, you got to get ready for Kansas City. No, the Atlanta Falcons playing for a playoff spot. You're playing for positioning. You're playing for a division title. You need to find a way to go out there and take this football game. And we'll talk about more of the matchups on Friday.
Looking forward to it. Again, you can find the Boys Collective on 105 Through the Fan here on YouTube, on our website at 105throughthefan.com, and all of our social media platforms. For the Super Bowl winning scouts and 1/4 of the G-Bag Nation, Bryan Broaddus. My name is Kevin Gray. This has been another episode of the Boys Collective here on 105 Through the Fan. Cowboys Falcons game preview on Friday here on the Boys Collective. Bryan, appreciate it. We'll talk to you Friday.
Sounds good, KG. Thanks, man.